Cool. All right, let's kick it off. So, I think you can see my screen. I can see it via the presentation mode, so I think we're all good. Audio all good. Any issues, drop it in the chat. I've got that open in another window, so I can see any questions or anything that you're asking. Cool. So, Codementor talk, SEO considerations for developers. Let's kick it off. Oh, it's a good start. Right, here we go. So just a quick bit about me. So my name is Lee Woodman, ex-coder, data geek, digital marketer, and I sit on a few boards of companies as non-exec director and board observer. So having kind of those coder / digital marketing / technical combination. It's not unique, but that's the weapon I take to market. So I run a consultancy called Visit Digital in the UK. So we work with brands all over the shop. So primarily in e-commerce, but we've got about 20% of our clients are lead generation. So that's what I do in my spare time. So hydrofoil, Skeletrix, and yeah, I got a small family. So if you want to know what that is, we can talk about that later. So what kind of SEO am I? So SEOs come in many forms. I think SEO is become a lot more technical, certainly in the last 10 years. I think you've got to have a bit of technical understanding to maximize the kind of SEO opportunity. So when I go into companies, I'm going straight in to DevOps, the tech team. That's kind of, we need to start at the kind of foundational level. So yeah, I'm more DevOps side than kind of your traditional SEO, if you like. So the way that we could look at it from a bit of an analogy is, I could go in, I could do some SEO, and I could put a nice cherry on the top of your application or your platform. But unless the ingredients of that cake are good, it's the cherry is not going to make any difference to how good the cake tastes. So we need to look at the application from kind of foundation to the front end, because it all plays a part in kind of the commercial and SEO success of the application. Okay, so quick little tour of what we're going to look at. So SEO fundamentals and site structure. We're going to look at technical opportunities. We're going to look at measurement, and we're going to bit of a summary learnings and some additional resources that can hopefully help you in your journey. So let's get stuck in. With the SEO fundamentals, I'm going to assume there's a little bit of SEO knowledge there, but I'll try and cover kind of some of the basics. So how do search engines work? So they crawl, they index, and they serve search results. So when they crawl websites, I like to think that we need to present the website well. It's like first impressions count. If a crawler, so a Google bot, a crawler, or a Bing bot, or whatever bots we're looking at, if we're not presenting ourselves well, so by that I mean, if they're seeing a lot of 500 server errors, 301s, 302s, we want to try and give them a concise representation of the website. So a sitemap can do that. So this is a Shopify sitemap. And you can see this is a sitemap index. So for Tatami Fightwear, so they're on Shopify. And we can see Shopify has created sitemaps for kind of each aspect of their website. And we can feed that to Googlebot. And, we're kind of giving it an indication of, hey, go and instead of you having to trawl through the website, here's what the website should look like technically in a sitemap. We then, we're trying to get Google, Bing, and all the other search engines to index our content. So that means actually store it and present it to the user. Doesn't always happen. So, we We try and get the search engines to index content as much as possible, because the more pages, generally speaking, that are in the search results of value, the more likely kind of all those fishing hooks are going to go and bring in users. But they don't always listen to kind of our directives, and then they serve search results. So we know bits of what impacts or what influences that, but yeah, so we need to try to align to best practice to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to try and get them to get us in top positions, basically. So where does SEO begin and end? I remember one of the first days at my job at a publishing company in London, 9:15 in the morning, somebody tapped my shoulder and it's like, we just launched the website, can you do some SEO for us? And it's like, that ship has sailed, really. There's limited things that I can do, now that are going to impact that in the short term. So, as that job developed and SEO was in its infancy, I think in like 2006-07, my position got much further back down the stack. So, ideally, from a digital marketing perspective, we need to be looking at it at concept stage of the proposition. And, for me, it starts in the database. Market research and kind of data structure is a critical part of the SEO journey, because what goes into the database is going to come out on the front end in various different ways. Where does it end? I mean, it's top to bottom. So, it's from, as I say, concept, market analysis perspective through to boardroom. It's the whole stack. So, I tend not to use the word SEO much anymore, because when we go into clients, I think they almost think of it as like a silver bullet. But you've got to layer it, and you've got to look at it at each individual level, because they all play a significant part. So when we talk about data structures and the database, you can think about it in a couple of different ways. So as an SEO digital marketer, I'm going to want to use some of the data points, if you like, in our application on the front end. A simple way to think about it is, if you wrap name in a single, field in an email, it looks a little bit, unpersonal. It's like, hey, Lee Woodman, how's it going? Versus, if you split these things out, I can use first name independently, bit less formal. Maybe I'll get some more engagement by doing that, because it's, I feel like it's a bit more friendly. Okay. In the context of, say, products and e-commerce, having category or reference to category ID, is an important element, because we can programmatically use those values in our front end SEO fields, if you like. So this is your page title, SEO page title. This is your meta description. These elements don't appear on page; they just appear in the search results, and we can set those values, and we decide what that looks like. And why would we want to do that? Well, we can see in the UK, there's best part of, 900 people there that are interested in, clearance TVs, and Argos probably has seen that bit of data, and they've, gone, okay, we're going to create that page in our CMS. Programmatically speaking, if they try to do that across, 500 categories, and they had to write this thing each time, that's a bit of a pain to do that. So we can see that they're basically just deploying, the category value as part of just a variable. They just dropped a variable in here, and they've done the same with the title, same with this aspect. So it allows them to scale kind of their SEO strategy very easily. Ideally, you want to write those by hand, but reality is that they're quite often done programmatically. Okay, so you couldn't have necessarily done that unless that's been thought about, as part of a data structure. It's a very simple example, but that's the context. So from database to front end, that's how that plays. Okay, so the data and corresponding site structure is key. Okay, so this is Car Buyer. So we built this. I say we, the company I used to work for, built this maybe 2011, something like that. And they were a challenger at the time. There was a very established kind of car news websites around, but the sales guys wanted more people in the buy cycle of cars. Okay, so because the manufacturers would basically give them as much money as they possibly could to target people who were just about to buy a car. So 98% of the traffic that arrives at Car Buyer is from non-brand search. So that means when they're searching queries in Google, the word Car Buyer doesn't exist, or for 98% of people, it doesn't exist in the query. So that's quite interesting, because building brand is really hard. To get people to search Car Buyer is quite a hard task. You could do TV advertising or whatever it might be, but that's where kind of the SEO person comes in, because we want to go after this kind of traffic, because there's generally more of it. It's a bit easier to come by, but our data and site structure are critical as part of that mix. Okay, so you've probably heard of Gymshark, so quite famous sports clothing brand. So we can see that 76% of the traffic that arrives at their website, they're using the word like Gymshark UK, Gymshark leggings, Gymshark sale, and that keyword list goes on a very long way, versus Car Buyer, which only 2 in 100 people use the word Car Buyer in their query. And again, that keyword list goes on a very long way. I think there's about 150,000 generic words that drive traffic to their website. Okay, so that for me is an opportunity, because it's like, okay, well, I don't want to compete on brand, me as an SEO, because that's somebody else's job to do that. I want to compete on kind of non-brand traffic, and when we start looking at the data, we can start seeing that, okay, so I want to build a challenger Car Buyer website, for example. They're a market leader, say, and we want to go after them. So we want to do some research about how they structure their website. So we're going to mine data for kind of make, model, keyword universe. So we're trying to understand how the audience is searching for stuff, in our sector. So I can take this data. There's, we've got 150,000 keywords that have got the word Ford Fiesta in there. Okay, so with this platform, I can take out on SEMrush about 30,000 of those. I can take them into Excel, just do a bit of tidying up here. So we can remove Ford Fiesta, because I'm not really interested in the make, model. I want to understand how people search around that topic. Okay. And then I can put it through something called Tag Crowd, which is a cloud kind of builder. It's a keyword cloud builder. And this surfaces all the high value or the most frequently used search terms that exist in that data set. Okay, so if I'm buying a car, I'm interested in things like, right, give me a review, what models are available, let's talk about MPG, how big is it to fit in the garage, what's the interior look like, what's the price specification. Probably not interested in used ones. So I might be, but that's a different model. Okay, Car Buyer is new cars. Something like that's a different platform. Or I don't know, problems. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the problems. So then we can take that data, and we don't need to guess what users want, because we can do keyword research and we can see that, okay, so when somebody searches for a Ford Fiesta, there's commercial intent. So they're in a buy cycle. We know that when people search that, they want to buy something, or they want to look at brands. There's 1,000 people in the month every market, and it's very competitive. So it's 57% keyword difficulty, which is pretty high. Okay. So off the back of that data, this stuff, so we can take that and we can go, right, we're going to apply that to every other make and model of car that exists, give or take, because, a Ford Fiesta, in terms of how we search for it, is the same to some extent as a Renault Clio, as a, Audi R8. There's different little nuances, but fundamentally the structure is the same. And we can look at building our proposition accordingly. So this is our Ford Fiesta hatchback review page. We've got a page talking about miles per gallon, running costs, etc. We've got engine drive and performance. We've got interior and comfort. We've got practicality and boot space. And then we've got reliability and safety. It's not an accident those are there. We know that's what we need to structure the page like, because the keyword data is telling us that. Okay. And then if we look at it from a search perspective, so they're not ranking position 1, but they are in the market. Okay, so I think, for Ford Fiesta review, for that commercial term, they're ranking 8th. So they're doing okay on that. So what we tend to see with a lot of startups is that they think they're in the market, but because they haven't done their kind of digital market research, they can't use that data to build their website, and then they're not in the market, or they're not as in the market as they think they are. And then we kind of get involved in a year's time. Perhaps they've raised investment, the money has been spent on things which perhaps, trying to pick it up. So they've lost a year's worth of market access, basically. So it's critical to kind of have that knowledge up front so you can build that into the application. It doesn't happen, or it happens very, very rarely. Okay. So then if we look at our deeper page, so this is, these are like our long tail keywords, if you like. So, you've got Ford Fiesta, then you've got what we call the modifiers. So Ford Fiesta, MPG, running costs, whatever. So, so this page, separate URL. So I've searched in Google here, Ford Fiesta MPG, and I think this is second position that they're appearing for there. Okay. So we're giving the search engines dedicated content around topics we know that people want. Okay. If you had a single page here, which was just Ford Fiesta review, and you just had all the content, it might not carry enough weight to rank for what we call some of these longer tail keywords. Yeah, it's a 50-50, that one. So cool. So then, we've got our page. So this is our like product review page, if you like. And then we can look at structured markup. So if you think about it technically, and you have to build a search engine, and you're sending off your little robot into a website, and you're trying to work out what it's about, that is quite a hefty job. Okay. So, we've got AI and we've got machine learning in there, and, there's a lot of stuff going on. But if that code structure is not very good, or that there's a lot of noise in the HTML, there's some weird like menu or advert being injected halfway down the page, makes it, it dilutes potentially the understanding of that content by the crawler. So we can use something called structured markup. And this is a simple kind of JSON LD tag, I think you'd call it that, which is a structured way of presenting information to the search engines. Okay, so this one is a news article. So this is the title. Here's some pictures. What date was it published? Quite an important one for news content is when was it modified? So if there are things that are changing, as part of a news story developing, like it's quite important to have that kind of information updated. Same with car reviews. If you've done a re-review of a car, 6 months later, that is an important field set. And then, down here somewhere, you're going to have the actual body of the news article. Okay, and then we got the same here for, this is product. So if you've got, products in your e-commerce store, So this, and we present this to the search engines. Just it can sit anywhere in the HTML or anywhere of the application body, and the crawlers are looking for those JSON LD tags to analyze. So if you go to this link, so developers.google, you can see all the different structured markup that exist that Google have got. So there are about 20 to 25. So there's things like product, reviews, you've got article, you've got courses, there's loads of different ones. So depending on what your clients do, you can leverage some of those schemas. And if you want to look at competitors to see what they're doing, you can use the schema markup validator, drop a URL in there for a specific page, and then you can see what they're doing. Okay, and then that information can get utilized in the search results to take up real estate. So you can see here, Auto Express in this case have got their review snippets, and yeah, it's presented it. So it's kind of enriched that search result. So yeah, it's quite, that's what's driving that basically. And then we can see they've actually created a car schema. Okay, so the car schema is not officially supported by Google, but it is supported and it's defined by schema.org, which is kind of the overarching structured data authority, if you like. So they're using review in combination with car. So yeah, we've also used that on a couple of our motoring platforms. Okay, and then you got FAQ schema. So you can see here we got some FAQs appearing. The FAQs have to appear on page as well. And then again, they're just defined by a JSON LD tag. Okay, cool. Right, so yeah, any questions about that, drop it in, and it's a whistle stop. I think about 25 past, we're going to go to about 18:45, well, another 20 minutes, and then we'll do some FAQs. So let's look at performance. So, the audience that's looking at your web application or app or whatever it is, it's global, but your infrastructure may not necessarily be global, and that can cause problems with performance. So you've got to look at kind of global performance as almost as a requirement, because there's just opportunities to make it good globally, basically. So this is a Deloitte Google report which came out a couple of years ago, which a 0.1 of a second improvement in load time can influence every step of the user journey. So that even I'm looking at this stuff every day, and 0.1 of a second is a pretty mind-blowing statistic. So Google actually wants server response time of 200 milliseconds. So as soon as somebody hits www.visitdigital.com, hit return, you receive that request. It wants you responding in 200 milliseconds. Very few applications that I work with can hit that kind of target. Got a few, but that needs to be something that is considered from day one. Otherwise it's kind of at the back of the mind, and it's by the time you come to optimize it 6 months after you started building the application, it's like there's too many things that are bottlenecking it to be able to go back and re-engineer. So yeah, have speed in your mind from day one. Okay, so is it fast? What does that actually mean? So need to make it really fast. Okay, so the difference in these two hitting the deck, there's 100 milliseconds difference in that. Okay, so that's 100 millisecond improvement in load time can have huge impacts on conversion rate. Most of the websites that I deal with are probably multiple seconds too slow. Yeah, never mind milliseconds. Okay, so this Deloitte Google report basically looked at 100 millisecond improvement in every step of a checkout journey in e-commerce. So interestingly, homepage, it had the opposite effect. Okay, there's a couple of reasons for that. I don't want to say ignore it, but there are reasons for that. There's more brand traffic coming here, so they're a bit more forgiving. versus product listing, product detail. These are generally people, generally speaking, people that haven't heard of your brand, and they're coming in on what we call those non-brand search queries. But look at that one there. So product detail page to add to basket. Well, you could probably cache these three, but as soon as you want to add some into basket, there's kind of database interactivity happening there. So performance is a key one. WordPress, I think, is, there is a bit of an issue with WordPress on that interaction. But again, anyway, you've got to hit the database, you're going to have issue. So the faster you can make that interaction, the better. Yeah, it's crazy. That is 100 millisecond improvement, and it's having massive impact. So then, if we look at it from an international perspective, so this is an international e-commerce brand, and we're looking at some old Google, the old version of Google, Universal Analytics version. So their average page load time is 5.87 seconds, which is very slow. Yeah, so that's it's probably not far off average, but it is very, very slow. And we can see that people in Australia were 32% slower than that, and in Spain 53%. Okay, so this was a problem basically. So it's a high traffic e-commerce company, and knowing what we know, what 100 milliseconds does, we're way off the pace here. So we basically optimized it. So various different things. It's a Magento build. Magento, versus Shopify, you can probably get Magento to be faster. Shopify, you sell more stuff because the checkout's better. So you've got this kind of debate which one you go with. Shopify is my preference. But with things like Magento, you get full access to the stack. So you can implement, whatever kind of improvements you like. So we were doing things like we moved it to Cloudflare, looked at the caching, various different improvements. And then you can see the international performance has increased. So even at 50%, we're at 2.8 seconds, something like that in France. And, this is looking at load time average. So we were up, way up here on this day, it was averaging 7.4 seconds, and, we're way down there. So speed is critical. What's the commercial impact of that? Well, we did get more traffic. So, SEO improvement potentially as a result of that, those speed changes. 41% increase in revenue, 7.5% increase in average order value. So was it all to do with the performance? Debatable. It definitely had an impact. Could we attribute it to it all? Probably not, but definitely had an impact. The numbers kind of speak for themselves internationally as well, not just on that one. So if Amazon slow down their infrastructure by 100 milliseconds, that's losing them 1% of their profit. Google loses 20% of their traffic and search results with 500 milliseconds. And the BBC lose 10% of their users for every additional second that it took to load. Speed. Performance is like a critical component there. So how do we find that kind of 100 milliseconds or, multiple seconds? So name servers are quite often something we don't even consider. When we register our domain name, we get name servers and we don't pay much more attention. The first thing developer might, interact with them is like, right, we're going live Monday. Can I have access to change some name server records? There's 100 milliseconds just sitting there most of the time waiting to be got. Okay, so again, when we register our domains, don't really pay much attention to it. This is one that's in the UK, very, very popular domain name provider. You're losing 100 milliseconds. And, I've got, enterprise grade clients still using that. They're just too nervous to jump. But, it's potentially costing them 10% of their conversion rate. So this is Cloudflare, responding in 4. I think Amazon AWS is pretty quick as well. You're talking similar numbers. Cloudflare, I generally go with that. But, it's there, and it's something that is a relatively straightforward change. Yeah, so this is a tool called DNSPerf, PERF, and this allows you just to see the performance of your name servers globally. So you can see with this one, it's really good in the UK. The issue with this is that Googlebot is in the US. So it's basically coming in from the US, looking at our site. So this interaction, we're losing like, I don't know, was kind of data centers, probably 140 milliseconds, 150, so hence why we need to look at it from a global perspective, because there's an opportunity there. I mean, down in Australia, you're losing 300 milliseconds. Doesn't sound much, but it's big. Okay, so if you're using Cloudflare, there's a paid service bolted onto that, which is pretty cheap. I mean, you're talking single dollars rather than triple digit dollars. It's called Argo Priority Routing. So they will give you preference in their network for your traffic. So you can see in this one, I mean, in Australia, where we're improved by 62%. Okay. So average response times with Argo 341, average without 608. Yeah. So, and that's a pretty cheap thing to deploy. Well, and it's simple, just switch it on. That's why I quite like Cloudflare, because there's a lot of additional features. It's not just name servers, there's like CDN, routing. Yeah, there's loads of stuff in there from an SEO perspective. Okay, and we've got crawler hints. So if your content doesn't change that often, then you're wasting your own resource and Google's resources crawling it. So they've brought out this thing called crawler hints, which tells the search engine whether the content has actually changed or not. So saves them crawling it, and it saves you bandwidth and additional resource. So what's the commercial value of those 0.1 of a second? Well, that's an increase in conversion rate for retail sites of 8.4%. You just won't get an easier win than that, really, and that's 0.1 of a second. As I say, most of the sites that we're dealing with are multiple seconds too slow. And so speed has got to be at the forefront of that, of the conversation. And then for AOV, so average order value for retail, it put an extra 9.2% on there, the average order value that people spent online. Okay. So how do we measure that? How do we see it? How do we get a pretty output to say, okay, we're looking good from a performance perspective? So Google brought something out called Core Web Vitals. So it's basically an initiative to provide unified guidance for quality signals that are essential to delivering a great user experience on the web. So LCP, largest contentful paint. So that's the biggest thing that loads above the fold or in the viewport on the page. So generally that's an image. So it could be product image, could be hero banner. Then we got first input delay. So let's say you delay the load of your JavaScript to the end of the page. Well, some of that functionality may be required for somebody to click on a button to go to the next page. So they measure first input delay. And then we got cumulative layout shift, which is the visual stability of the page. So I'll show you some examples of that. So these are the three metrics that the search engine, that Google specifically, but you get this right here, it applies everywhere else, is they're looking at, and they're weighted differently. So that's a key one. So if things are moving around the page, that's definitely not good. LCP and then FID. Okay. So this is what it looks like inside a platform called Google Search Console. So if you, working with clients, you'd be surprised how few have access to this, but it's a critical bird's eye view of what Google thinks about your website, basically. So that's a key one to get access to. So you can see core vitals for mobile on this website is a bit all over the shop. It looks like they've sorted that out in the last week or so. And then these are page experience reports. So we're seeing, I don't know, 200 URLs are good, and we've got 100 URLs-ish that need improvement. This data is actual Chrome user data. So this is not some kind of field. This is not lab data. It's being fed back directly from Google Chrome on those pages. So yeah, 100 pages on this website are below par. Okay, and this one, we probably got a few that are bad. So that's not good. And we got LCP, so the largest contentful paint, so the biggest image on the page, took longer than 2.5 seconds to load on a mobile. Okay. And then you got cumulative layout shift. So we had a 0.25 shift of assets. So if I was going to click this validate fix button, okay, so I'm loading my web page, open up this page, and then all of a sudden it jumps down here. That is cumulative layout shift. Okay, so you'll be surprised now that I've showed you what it is, you can't unsee that. So, cumulative layout shift is a thing, and it's surprisingly common, and websites get punished for it accordingly. So what causes cumulative layout shift? If you load your div, I think the default thing for a div is that it's closed, so there's no height. But if you load an image into that div, it's going to open the div out. But you might have loaded loads of other stuff underneath, and then all of a sudden this image loads in and bumps everything down the page. That's a good example. Images without height width attributes. So it's another one. Okay, and then this is what it kind of looks like inside something called web.dev or page speed insights. So you can see time to interactive on this one is 41 seconds. You've got to bear in mind this is a throttled 4G connection, so that's how Google tests. But yeah, it's carnage there. Okay. But yeah, get your application through there. This is probably not far off average for mobile across the web. And then your desktops are generally better. Okay. So we either fix this stuff now, or we, as a business, we pay for it forever, because all those things we're basically losing money because they're not as good as they could be. So if we look at conversion rate, so to acquire a customer here, this is $100, $200, $300, $400. So Google Ads has a metric called quality score. And if we got a quality score of 1, it costs us $350 to acquire a customer. If we've got a quality score of 10, we get that to $50. Okay. And they have 3 metrics that they review us on: landing page experience, ad relevance, expected click-through. Landing page experience could be a lot of different things, but performance could be one of those things in the context of this one. So that keyword here that we're bidding on to drive traffic at our website, we're probably spending 20% more in terms of money to buy that traffic than we need to, because our landing page experience is only average. Okay. So it's like, if clients are debating, do we spend money on performance or do we spend it on ads? Well, you're getting nailed both ways, because you got a slow website and you're paying above the odds for your ads because the performance is poor of your application. Yeah. So you've been punting, shooting yourself in the foot, basically. Hence why I go see DevOps first, because if I come into a business and it's all right, we're gonna do some SEO, it's no good me putting the cherry on the top if DevOps or the infrastructure is not up to scratch, because we're just we're spending money that is not we're not maximizing that budget, is the kind of way to look at it. Okay, running low on time here. So hreflang. So if you've got multi-stores across the world, so you, especially like Shopify, for example, if you've got individual Shopify stores running, multinationally, they've got no concept of each other. So the search engines are like, somebody searched for whatever, tatami fightwear in America. It's got no idea which store should be, it should present. So there's some tag-in called hreflang, which defines in which territory, which version of the website should be seen. Okay. So if I search for Uni pizza ovens in the UK, I want to see the UK website. I don't want to see a dollar website. Okay, so that has a big impact on conversion rate. Can be quite tricky to deploy. So, I mean, bit of a mess going on in there with that one. If you want to check it, you can use something called SEO Minion, and that's a Chrome extension, and it's got a hreflang checker on it. Okay, I'm gonna. Well, the impact of that, if it's wrong, so the revenue this website was doing from organic search, you're talking $3,000 a month here. We fix a Googlebot and hreflang issue, and we're doing $17,000. Okay, so fundamental. So what they were doing, they coded it so that all US traffic, I think it's all US traffic, one way or the other, got routed to the US website, but they'd also they'd included Googlebot in that because Googlebot comes from the US. So the Google had no concept of the UK website. It didn't know it existed because every time it tried to go there, it got bounced back to America. Okay. So I want to get into measurement. So Search Console is your friend. There's lots of cool stuff in there. So I live in there as an SEO because that shows me Google's eye view of what's going on. So you can see this website's got massive server connectivity issues. Okay, so that's Google seeing that. That's not, well, it's users as well, but that is not good from a reputation standpoint with the crawlers. And then it shows you loads of other stuff about, pages that got redirect, alternative page with a canonical tag, not found, server errors. Okay. Right. Measurement. So all told, above there. So measurement's quite a key part for, your SEO team. And Google Analytics 4, which is the new version that's coming out, it needs more of a measurement strategy. It's, the old Google Analytics was pretty simple. You could get a lot of commercial value out of that with very little effort. Now this one is a blank canvas and it's like you can do whatever you want with it, but you've got to define that. So you need to get your clients to think about what they're going to want to measure further down the line. Okay. And then we're going to take that stuff and we're going to put it into the data layer. And then your digital marketing teams are going to be able to access those values. Okay. So in the old Google Analytics, data was organized into like separate views that are based on filters. So the new GA is all about events. So, a page view event, user engagement event, site search event, a YouTube video play button click event. Yeah, so it's all event based. But with those events, we can load up key value pairs. So the old Google Analytics, we could do very little. It's like, I want to fire an event. I can set a category, an action, and a label and a value. That's it. With Google Analytics 4, we can set key value pairs. So we could say, right, when somebody views this page, an article page, in the data layer, I'm going to set article type, journalist, make, model, as variables, and then your digital marketing teams can collect that information in something called Tag Manager, which is kind of a digital marketing tool to track things. Okay, game changer in terms of what you can do with that data then. So the data layer, you may or may not be familiar with that, but if you look at a couple of websites, it's basically a JavaScript object that stores information about the user's behavior on a website. so it can capture data, clicks, page views, and other user interactions. So I am taking some server-side data here about this content, and we're pushing make model into the data layer. Okay, and you can see on this website, Auto Express, they've done the same. Okay, so it's an in-depth review. The product family is Tesla Model 3. The make is Tesla. Okay, so there's loads of stuff that they've loaded their data layer with for their digital marketing teams to then go and grab that data, and it doesn't need developer involvement past that. Okay, so I can then go into Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager, and I can set a variable. So as a digital marketer, I can do this. I can then pick up a data layer variable called model, and then I can use that for something. Okay, so I might want to track a click. If somebody clicks a button to test drive something, I can then load that event with model data. So yeah, hey, we had a test drive yesterday and it was a Model 3, for example. Quite a cool one is, and one that's probably not done that often, is whether you or how you track logged in and logged out users, because that's quite useful in as much as your digital marketing teams might go, I don't want to fire our LinkedIn Insight tool if the user is logged in, or vice versa, or if you've got like Hotjar Analytics, I don't want to track people who are logged in. Fine, we're gonna use our data layer variable, and we're gonna not fire that tag. Okay, so that one rarely gets done, but it's quite valuable for multiple reasons. And then make it easy for your digital marketing teams to measure user interaction. So these buttons could be coded up as class transaction button, and that's it. But if you can give them a unique ID, so an ID is probably a better thing to do here, your digital marketing teams can pick that up, and we can fire events then which said, hey, we've had a test drive click, so when somebody clicks, click class equals lead scale button, do something in Google Analytics 4. Okay. Yeah, I see that one quite often, where it's like, right, we've got to go back to the dev team because the buttons are using the same class, and we could target like the third one in the list, but it's messy because if you put another one in there, our tracking goes and it's game over. Okay, and then if somebody submits a form, this is we can track it with Google Tag Manager and events, but it's just an extra step that we don't need. So yeah, if you can send them to a new page, that helps. Okay, I think we're good on that. Search, you've got your own search engine, and don't underestimate how important that data is. So it is the most underinvested piece of technology on most websites. So site search, those people convert at least twice as well as normal users. So these guys are twice. These are 3 separate websites that we've got. These convert twice as well. Those convert 4 times as well. Same, 4 times. Okay, so people who search for one of our clients, they have a touch point on 70% of their revenue. Okay, so it's like massive opportunity to tweak that. Okay, so data and site structure are key ingredients in SEO, and it's like the sooner you can get that defined down, the better. Try and build with the data layer in mind, because if you push it, I was literally on a call earlier and there was nothing in the data layer, so they're having to kind of do some really hacky stuff to get the data out of the website so they can use it in event tracking. So yeah, build with the data layer in mind, because your digital marketing teams are going to be able to do some like super cool stuff if they can just access what normally would be programmatic things. very easily. Performance is critical. Yeah, so, and we control that. There's a lot of things with search engines we have no control over. Performance is one of the things that we can improve from our side, and it definitely has an impact on SEO rankings, conversion rates, the whole shebang. And yeah, the cumulative effect of like small changes is big. So you might do one change, it has very little impact. You do 10 of those similar things, and yeah, you know, it has a big impact on the business. Cool. Here's some additional resources. So these are some tools that I use quite a lot in my day-to-day operations. So Google PageSpeed Insights, so that will measure website performance, same as GT Metrics, same as Lighthouse. So those are kind of worth looking at. SEO Minion is a Chrome extension that I use. It's quite good. Shows you some technical aspects. And then we use crawlers like Screaming Frog and Screaming Frog Log File Analyzer. So this one is quite good if you're a custom build, so we can see how Google's been interacting with you. And then a couple of others like Data Slayer. That's a Chrome extension to view the data layer and what's going on in there. Tag Assistant for Conversions Beta, bit of a mouthful, but that is a Google J4 page by page insight tool. And then you got GA4 Debug View, which is in the new GA4, and it shows you, again, a bit of page by page, what's happening, what values are being fired, so you can interact with it. Yeah. Any questions? That was a bit of a, you know, whistle-stop tour of SEO, digital marketing, measurement. Yeah. So, you know, I don't mind deep diving on a few things if you want, but fire them in the chat if you want. So I think, cool. Cheers, Steve. So yeah, as I say, my name is Lee Woodman. I run a digital strategy consultancy called Visit Digital. So based in the UK, but we kind of operate with clients all over the world, really. So if you want to touch base, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, yeah, all over the shop. But yeah, unless there's any questions, we will wrap it up. Okay, front end. Okay, so if you, where are we? So, I mean, PageSpeed Insights is a go-to for me. It's an official like Google tool. So GT Metrics is good, but it probably hasn't got the technical depth of PageSpeed Insights. But yeah, those two are really good. PageSpeed Insights, GT Metrics. It's probably worth getting just a free like trial version of Screaming Frog, because then you can put that through your application and you can see how Google kind of interacts with the website. So that's pretty good. You know, if it's seeing like a lot of 301s or 302 server redirects, that kind of stuff, you know, there's something wrong, and you can debug. So apart from Google search, what happens if you use us on other search engines such as Bing? So Bing generally accounts for about 4 to 5% of the traffic that, you know, we see in kind of Google Analytics and those platforms. Bing, it generally converts better than Google. And what I would say is that if you get it right for Google, you've generally got it right for the other search engines, you know. Yeah, they operate similarly. So Google's a little bit more, I think, open about what you need to be doing, and it's quite good at feeding back on what you're not doing well. You know, so get it right in there, and you're good. So do ads make your web application slower? So yeah, I mean, if you're a publishing website, you've got to weigh up: do we want to make ad revenue, or do we want to make our website as fast as possible? Generally speaking, you can't have both. So, you know, I've worked with quite a few publishers where, you know, you've got to kind of take a hit. The good thing about generally websites that have ads on them is that they're content websites. So if you've got really good content, then the search engines have got nothing else, or they've, you know, that is an incentive for them to come to your, you know, your platform instead of somebody else. So it's like, you know, you can have our content, but you're also going to have our ads, and our content is the best that it can be. So, you know, you need to rank us for whatever we're targeting. Yeah, I think Codementor. So Austin's asked if I could upload it on my YouTube channel or website. Codementor, I think, will publish a recorded version. It is being recorded. So yeah, that'll be available. How do you increase ranking levels? So it's a bit of kind of best practice. So if we just skip back, so Google have got various different playbooks. So we've got one called like the e-commerce playbook, and we've got something called the lead gen playbook. These are all kind of best practice tick lists of things that we need to think about. And SEO for me is it's user experience. Are you providing the best user experience that you possibly can? And, you know, when we talk about user experience, it's pretty multifaceted, you know, what that is. But, you know, when somebody comes to your website, are you providing a better experience, a better service, a better product than somebody else? Yeah, I think SEO historically, and, you know, my background is SEO. I probably class myself as like a thoroughbred SEO. SEO historically was a lot around keyword placement. It was just kind of, you know, it was a race to kind of keyword spam to some extent. Now it is more about user experience. So, for example, in e-commerce, if you tick this list off, you know, you're not going to be far wrong. Yeah, and that's why I said at the beginning, it's I tend not to use the word SEO much anymore, because SEO is like, it's all user experience. It's like, how do we provide the best experience for the users? Google, so if you think about it a different way, when somebody searches for something and they click on a search result, Google is giving you one of their customers. So Google wants that person to have the best experience on your website. If they get to choose between, hey, we can send them to this one or this one is not very good technically, it's a bit slow, or whatever the reason is that it's not very good, they're gonna choose the other one, because, you know, they've got to be seen to be providing the best search results. If they're not, people are, you know, they're not going to use it, so they're going to bail out. So yeah, provide the best experience. So, and it's things like this, you know, e-commerce playbook, frictionless experiences, you know, make it slick, make it fast, make it helpful. Yeah. Any other questions? All good? Cool. No worries. Yeah, you know, reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Ping them over. If you got specific, you know, applications that you're working on and you want to look at, ping them over. I'll give you my opinion. So, job done. Good to meet you all. Hope you enjoyed. And I will stop sharing, and I think we can just all leave. Cool.